Threesomes are the most common searched for sexual fantasy that exists, especially in North America. It is the one fantasy that everybody thinks about, that thinks this is going to be the most incredible experience of my life. So people are searching and looking and wanting to know how and where and why and all the ins and outs about this sexual fantasy. So I want to get into a little bit about why it's one of the most common sexual fantasies, and really to think in deeply about why it is that you actually do want to have this kind of fantasy take place. And maybe there's another way that you can bring this kind of desire into your life. So, it being one of the most common sexual fantasies brings a lot of energy behind it. Now, here we have you and your partner who have been maybe together for a long time, or maybe you haven't, but you've been with one person for most of your intimate sexual life, had experiences with one person, you and the other person. And you feel like maybe that's it, that there's nothing else that you could potentially do, and you're getting maybe a little bit bored, and you like to have some spice, you like to try something different, you like to try something new. And the threesome fantasy is something that comes to mind often. The idea that you, whether you are going to have an MFM, an MMF, an MFF, an FFF, an MMM, whatever combination you are thinking about, it's kind of spicy sounding, right? It sounds exotic and exciting and fun and different, and definitely it sounds kind of scary, the whole idea of how would I possibly even put this together. So we have this huge fantasy of threesomes. But when it actually comes down to playing it out or actually doing anything about it, the percentage of people that actually go out and have the fantasies is very small. Compared to the numbers that are actually thinking about the fantasy, the numbers actually having it are tiny. And why is that? Because it's a lot more difficult than most people realize, and you have to put in a lot of energy to make it happen. You have to be not only physically ready to have it happen, but emotionally. And many people are not. Many people can barely handle the one person in a sexual connection, let alone two people. And that scares people. The whole idea of performance. How do I perform when there's three of us in the room? One of us is a lot of work. One of us, takes a lot of energy. How can I do it with three of us? It's something certainly that I was concerned about for a long time. So we are in this place of, okay, I'm desiring to have this fantasy, but it's going to take some time to actually create this fantasy, and it's going to take some effort. I do have a couple of ways that I talk about in order to make this fantasy happen. One being the digital method, the online method, connect online, and the other is the organic method. And if you are really wanting to get into the nitty-gritty details about having a threesome, then you have to check out my program, The Threesome Formula. Go to the link here, go to the link in my description. You're going to love that program if you are contemplating having a threesome. So we have this fantasy of having a threesome, but it is very scary to actually play it out. And that's what most people are finding, that the fantasy itself can make it very exciting just to talk about. I mean, there are steps before you actually get to playing it out. And if the fantasy's just been within yourself and in your own head and in your own fantasy world, a step of just starting to talk about it with your partner is going to help make it become a kind of reality. As soon as you throw out the possibility to your partner that, wow, what do you think about a threesome? What do you think would be fun in a threesome? Is it something that you have thought about before? Would you like to just kind of fantasize together about having a threesome and see how that will play out for us? Going even that step can be scary for many people, to reveal that they actually have this fantasy. But maybe it'll be easier now that you know that it's one of the largest fantasies that exists. And that does not just go for men, it goes for women as well. Women also have that fantasy of having a threesome, whether it's with another woman, with two women, or with two men. So don't feel that you're alone if you're a man who thinks that, oh, it would be so hot to have a fantasy with two women or with two guys and my wife and my partner. Your partner also is potentially having that fantasy as well. So to actually reveal it is the first step. And I know that even that is very difficult because we hold in our desires. We're afraid to reveal these kinds of desires because we think they're very naughty, that they're dirty, that our partner's going to think we're weird. Our partner might even leave us. I mean, we have all of these fears that are wrapped around anything outside a box of monogamy, long-term heterosexual. But let me just say that talking about your fantasies is a step that can make a huge difference in your relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to have a threesome, that you will actually have a threesome in reality. But talking about it can be a lot of fun. As long as you're both on the same page, realizing that, hey, let's just talk about this. Let's have some fun playing with the concept and the idea that what would it be like if we had a threesome? And you bring that into your kind of coupledom as a topic of conversation, and you will see that just having a conversation about having a threesome, diving in deeper about what that means to you, what that means to your partner, what you would like to do for having a threesome, what kind of combination gets you really excited, where would you like to have it, what things would you not like to do having a threesome. All of these questions and topics of conversation start to stir up the sexual energy, start to get you aroused and excited, start to open up your realm of fantasy and possibility, and brings you closer together. Because as you start to talk about something that is so taboo, it brings up lots of conversation and maybe a lot of questions and things that you're going to start to talk about you have never ever talked about with each other, and maybe that you have never ever revealed to each other. So just bringing out the conversation starts to bring you closer together as a couple. And as you become closer as a couple and you start to understand more about your partner, it becomes more exciting. Like, oh, she said that she would like to do this, this, and that, and I've told her I'd like to do this, this, and that, and now we're both really turned on, and then you start to come together, and you're thinking about what your partner said, and it just gets exciting, and you come together, and you're building up this sexual energy. Conversation about sex is very important. Now, the opposite can also happen, where it brings up something within yourself or your partner that is a deeper element of maybe some kind of trauma that happened around sexuality, and that's why you haven't been able to open up about anything sexual. Or maybe you're very strongly connected to what the church has told you about sexuality, and you feel guilty for thinking or talking about anything that's beyond that box I just explained, heterosexual, long-term, box, monogamous box. We're not even talking about doing anything. We're just talking about exploring fantasies together. So if your partner is feeling ashamed or fearful or pushes away any idea of talking about having a threesome or the fantasy of threesomes, then there may have to be some other work done first, right? They are not comfortable with talking about sex at all. So you may need to get somebody professional that you can sit down and have a conversation about your sex life, your sexual lives, and find out what's blocking your partner from being able to actually even talk about anything sexual. And that could be very, very helpful. Even just having a few sessions with somebody like me, a sex coach, a sexual wellness professional who can ask you the right questions, thread through and find out what is actually going on, nail and hone into where that trauma might be, and help release it and help the energy flow through your partner's body so that they feel more comfortable talking about sex and start to connect sex with love and intimacy and deeper connection with their partner, as opposed to maybe where it sits in some kind of traumatic place. So what I'm saying here is that the conversation about your fantasies, I think, is very important to have as a coupledom, but it can go in different directions. It can help open up your relationship and create more exciting conversation around sexuality and possibility. But it could also go into a place where there's a lot of vulnerability that starts to become released, and it becomes more difficult for conversation, but at least you start to get to know that there is an area that you need to look at and work on. You need to either see a professional or go in much more gently and talk about things a little bit more gently and really find out what's going on with your partner, that they are having problems talking about sex. There is nothing wrong with sex, sexuality, sexual activity, sexual fantasies, sexual play. Nothing wrong at all with it. It is about body expression. It's about deep life force energy moving through your body. It's about this powerful connection that two people can have, and it can grow and transform, and you can expand as human beings as you get deeper in touch with this beautiful force that we have within our beings. So if your partner is having problems, then get some help. Simple as that. Get some help. If she or he is not having any problems and is open to talking about sexuality, continue to talk about it and explore it, and you will see that the connection that you have together will become deeper and will grow much more intimate. Thank you very much for being here, and let's all start talking about sexuality and threesomes. Much love, Nikki.